induction just for a minute. I just want to talk to you for a minute about the problem in induction. The problem of induction is the idea that in the scientific development, there is the idea that we gain knowledge by induction. That is, we look at the particulars and we get enough particulars and come to some conclusion about a general principle or a general idea or a general theory or a general piece of knowledge. So we look at the particulars, get the particulars, and then come to a wider conclusion or application to those particulars. The problem of induction comes in is that we can never really know whether we have enough particulars, and we can never know whether our general rule is truly general because we don't know everything that there is in the universe. And that's the problem of induction. So what that means is when we say we know something, there's always a boundary where it could interchange and upset that what we know as knowledge. And this is a problem that philosophers have tried to get out of. Karl Popper has stated, has had the idea of falsification, and that is to say that we don't try to prove anything, but we try to falsify it. And if we falsify it, then that gives us some kind of indication that the information is helpful. The problem with Popper's idea is he doesn't believe in truth. It's more of a description rather than actually believing in truth. My own thinking is that the problem of induction is the problem of finitude. Basically, we're finite, limited in our capacity, and therefore there will always be a limitation in our knowledge. And what that means is knowledge is always progressive rather than actual static. And I think that is just something that we have to accept as the nature of being human, is that we're all ever growing but never coming to the full knowledge of the truth. It doesn't mean to say that we can't know truth, but we're only knowing truth in part in terms of that we're growing in our knowledge. It also doesn't mean to say that the knowledge that we've had, when we find new knowledge, that it invalidates the older knowledge, but doesn't necessarily invalidate, but could enrich it. So I'm talking about science. I think the problem with the science and our knowledge in science is that we're limited. And so even though we may not know all the particulars or all the generality of a generality, it's not something to bemoan, it's something to celebrate that we are limited in our capacity. And therefore, any knowledge that we gain will always be overcome by a new knowledge, but that new knowledge that we gain doesn't necessarily invalidate the knowledge that we have, but can enrich it and enrich our capacity. I think the issue of truth, that it can be true knowledge as opposed to false knowledge, that's an added dynamic that you can have with the Christian faith. But I don't think it should be the case that we should critique or attack people who are troubled by the problem of induction. I think the problem of induction should be celebrated that human beings are limited in their capacity, but that celebration should lead us to pursue new knowledge, to know that we're always going to be growing and in our knowledge, and recognize that it's only knowing God, and that God stretches beyond the boundaries of the particulars, that God knows all the particulars and he knows all the general principles of the universe, and therefore only God knows everything. And that should give us a humility within the universe, that the greatness of God, that he would create all the particulars, that he would create all the universals, that we can never know all the particulars and we can never know all the universals, but that we can, in God's creation, be growing in our knowledge and recognize our limitation. But as human beings, we will not recognize our limitation. At the Tower of uh, Babel, they wanted to build that tower and they wanted to know more than God, and they would not recognize their limitation. If you look at the history of modernism from Immanuel Kant right up to the 1950s, there was always this proud arrogance of humanity that they would know everything. But the problem of induction is really a nail in the coffin of the pride of man, because man will never know all the particulars, will never know all the universals. But yet, God is a God who is a creator God, and he made us in his image, and it is the creative capacity of humanity to gain and grow in that creative capacity and knowledge, and to explore and to expound and to investigate. So the problem of induction is a celebration of our limitation as human beings and our recognition of the greatness of God. That's what I think. Tell me what you think. Take care.